we're on the sales side of insurance, right? Agency, all the fun, glittery stuff. And you're doing what I think is the less exciting but very necessary stuff, because insurance doesn't exist without claims and without that side of it. So,
well, it's a result of the sale of the insurance policy, right? Yes.
That's all how you look at it.
Correct.
Came first, the chicken or the egg?
The claim or the agent? You're listening to the Uptown Girls podcast. I'm your host, Martina Barley. Let's talk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Uptown Girls podcast. Carla and I are here with a very special guest, as in, he's so special we wouldn't be on this earth without him. We would like to introduce our father, Michael Brugnoni.
It's me. I'm responsible for these two. I take full responsibility.
What an honor, though.
What
for
an
you.
honor.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Do you know what's happening? You know what a podcast is? You understand everything that's going on?
I told you, a cast from a pot. I know all about this.
Exactly. That's all. So the reason we brought our dad on is because a lot of people that know us well, like our clients, know that our dad worked in insurance for how many years?
36.
36. Older than us.
Ooh.
So before we existed, your insurance career existed.
This is correct.
So what was 36 years ago? The 80s?
84.
84. Okay. So what did you start as? Like, what was your first job and how did you get into it?
Okay, so I started as an estimator for State Farm.
Explain what is an estimator for somebody that doesn't know insurance.
Okay, well, there are many estimators, but I was an auto estimator, which basically is someone that writes an estimate on a damaged car after an automobile accident, and then negotiates it with the body shop to come to an agreement on what it's going to cost to repair the car.
So when you're estimating damage for an insurance company, your goal is to get the body shop down in price. Like you're saying, hey, according to my expertise, it takes $1,000 to fix this. So
correct.
Don't quote me $1,500.
Correct. But there has to be reasonable it has to be reasonable so that it's fair enough for the body shop to make money, yet not overpriced for the insurance company.
So when you started doing that in 1984, there was probably a lot less technology involved than the back half of your career, right?
Absolutely.
So were the estimates less accurate?
Well, to your point, they were written on paper. We'd add them with a tape and an adding machine. We'd take pictures, instant pictures with Polaroid cameras.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was.
And then what did you do with those pictures? You brought them, would you mail them back into underwriting?
Yeah.
So you
wouldn't mail them into underwriting. You would attach them to basically a photo sheet, and that would get attached to the physical claim file.
But at some point there was mail going back and forth from the agent's office to underwriting, right?
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with us.
Okay, so you weren't doing that.
Right.
Okay. Wow. I mean that alone is.
I mean, yeah, just the thought of physically writing it out with a pen or pencil and paper and attaching it to a physical file.
Yeah. It's
mind-blowing.
Every claim was like its own scrapbook.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
And what's funny about it is a customer would call in to have a question about a claim, and you would have to tell them, all right, well, I'll have to find your file and call you back, because you'd have to literally go hunting for the file.
Where were the files kept?
They were in the office, but there were so many of them.
The agent's office?
No, the claim office.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is a lot. So the agent mailed the claim, and then the customer could no longer discuss the claim with the agent because they didn't have the file?
Well, the agent would be the go-between. Mm-hmm. So they would, in essence, be the face of the customer with claims. And
so the agent was reaching out to claims to get the information and relaying it back to the customer?
At times, or the customer could call us directly. It just depends. Some customers didn't want to deal with it. Others would, call us directly.
Okay. So how did you get into this position? Did you always want to be an estimator growing up as a kid?
No, that's funny. We used to joke at the insurance company, who said when I grew up I wanted to be an insurance claim person? Raise your hand.
Yeah.
No one, right? So I actually went to school and got a business degree. And while I was in school, I used to repair cars.
Okay.
I worked, basically doing body work on cars. So when I was finished with school, I was looking for a job, and I actually started with another company as an independent appraiser, and we worked for a bunch of insurance companies and learned how to write estimates. And then from there, a friend of mine who was an insurance agent let me know that the company that I was working for was looking for someone, and that's how I ended up at that insurance company.
Okay, so you were at that insurance company for how long as an estimator before you took the next step? And tell us what the next step was.
Okay, so I started in 84, and probably within a year, I became a claim representative because I wanted to progress up the ladder at the insurance company.
So can I just clarify the difference between those two positions? And
Yes.
maybe I'm wrong. An estimator is they are just strictly going to estimate the damage on the car, negotiate with the body shop. A claims rep is customer facing. So if Carla gets in an accident, you are the person she's discussing her claims with.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And that's a higher level job.
It's probably at that point it was lateral in terms of pay and let's say pecking order, because estimatics in itself is very specialized. But at the same time, if you wanted to progress within an insurance company, you had to take other positions and basically move up through claims. And the start of that was as a claim representative and then on up.
What is on up? So that how long did you do that?
I did that for claim representative for another 3 years. And then I was promoted to claim supervisor. Then I moved to Syracuse, New York, where you two characters were hatched.
We came on the scene.
Correct. And I was there for about 4 years. And then I came back to Rochester as a claim superintendent.
Okay.
Now,
Which was the next promotional
Right.
level.
When we were young, used to
this is where I'm
say
going.
your job was a claims officer.
Yes.
And from what I'm hearing, you were a claims officer.
That was our interpretation of his position, was a claims officer. Or down the line, it became Captain Catastrophe, but that's we got to get there.
Oh, wow.
still.
Wait,
we got to get there.
I wasn't even okay, we'll get there.
Yeah.
So, all right, you are now, I've also never realized that you were a superintendent. So what is a claim superintendent is just you manage the supervisors.
No, what you managed the claim representatives. There. You may or may not have had a claim supervisor at that time. In fact, I don't think I did at that particular time. The first office I was in. So you managed a team of claim representatives, and you managed the claims that came within that particular office area of coverage.
Okay. And then what was next?
Then there were pretty much everything after that was a lateral for me. So then I became a property claim superintendent.
Which is home
No,
insurance?
No, no. That just was a broader perspective.
Okay.
It actually became specialized. I'm sorry, because when I first became a claim superintendent, I was responsible for injury claims, property damage claims, the estimators, all of it, the whole ball of wax. Then we decided to specialize at State Farm. I became property claim superintendent, which meant that I managed just property damage claims to automobiles at State Farm. And then there were separate injuries claim superintendents that specialized in the injury part of it.
It's so funny. Obviously, we were to an extent aware of what his job was, but I don't ever really remember sitting down and having like a talk about what the specifics are or anything like that. So it's funny to talk about it now as an adult versus kind of thinking back to what our perception of it was at the time, which was claims officer.
Claims officer. Let's talk about the catastrophes. So
Yeah.
I remember I must have been in 9th grade when Katrina happened, Hurricane Katrina. And you had to move to New Orleans for a year, it was, right?
No, it seemed like a year.
In my
Yeah.
15-year-old
Was it a
mind.
school year though? Or
It was during the school year.
Yeah.
We went there in September, and I think I worked there till January.
Okay, so walk us through that prep. Because remember, we're on the sales side of insurance, right? Agency, all the fun, glittery stuff. And you're doing what I think is the less exciting but very necessary stuff, because insurance doesn't exist without claims and without that side of it. So,
Well, it's a result of the sale of the insurance policy, right? Yes.
that's all how you look at it.
Correct.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
The claim or the agent. So had you gone anywhere for a catastrophe before?
Yes.
Where? Tell us about your first catastrophe.
Was
And
it Krista a baby?
Yeah. Yeah. Hurricane Andrew. And I think that was 92. If I recall that, we were down in Miami, Florida, basically at that particular time.
how convenient. All the catastrophes are in Miami, New Orleans.
Hey, if you're going to go, pick a decent spot.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? Because you were not in any kind of homes, but well, there was auto claims. What do they just say? Hey, everybody, we're all hands on deck in Miami now.
Correct. That's exactly what happens. So when something like that happens, which is a major event, right? It's a major weather event, results in an enormous amount of damage. The insurance company is looking for volunteers to go where they need them. And then when you get there, you're going to do what they need you to do.
Regardless of what it is.
Regardless of what it is. So what's funny is I went on, I think, a total of 3 different catastrophes in my career. And the first 2, I handled homeowners claims.
And that
last
wasn't your thing at the time.
It wasn't my thing at the time. It was totally foreign to
But
me.
they just needed bodies there.
Correct. And basically what you're doing is managing people in any event. So if you know how to manage people, you can manage them in a different environment. But it was fun because I got to learn that aspect of the business, which was totally different. I loved it. And we had a lot of fun.
Okay.
A lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There were 12-hour days. You worked 11 12-hour days before you had a single day off.
Jesus.
And then you would get to fly home once a month for a weekend and then go right back.
And how long were you in Miami?
I was in Miami for 6 weeks, I believe.
Okay. And then Katrina was much longer. How long was that?
Katrina, because I extended. You initially,
You offered.
yeah.
Well, was it a
Well,
volunteer sort of situation?
Well, someone was in college or going into college and
Me.
had to pay that bill.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Okay.
so is that extra money?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's part
Okay.
of the incentive to get you to volunteer. Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, she really screwed that up. All that work in Katrina for her to spend 6 years in college. Oh,
I
man.
should have
Probably
stayed
should have
there if I
extended a
known
little
she was
bit
going to be
longer.
in college as long as she was. I'd still be down there.
You can probably volunteer again. I think they would take an X.
Man. Okay. So that is just, when you started your job there, did they say, hey, just so you know, when you're on this side of the business, if a major weather event happens, we are going to ask for you to step up and go handle it?
No, I don't think I do that when I started with the company, but it didn't matter. I mean, to me, it was an opportunity and I was all for it. And,
Yeah.
you learn new things. It's all good.
Well, good. Okay. I want to talk about your, and maybe just claims in general, relationship with the agents, and what does that look like, and where do you guys work together? Because when I worked for your friend that was an agent, you used to stop in the office here and there on business, not just to say hi to us.
Correct.
So I know that you invented Select Service.
No, I
The
did.
founder of
I did
probably
not.
have to cut that out.
No, I'm not cutting it out.
I'm kidding.
Just a joke. No one take it seriously. But what was your relationship? I guess what was your role with the agents and the customers?
Well, with customers, it could be many things. I mean, I could be interacting with a customer that has a problem with the claim settlement or the estimate or the body shop, or, it could be an issue. It could just be helping answer questions or whatever. With an agent, you're trying to build a good rapport with the agent. You want to have a good relationship, and you want to feel the agent to feel like they have a good relationship with claims. So when they need something, they're able, it's all, at the end of the day, it's a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to have a relationship with the person so that you can interact and hopefully be able to resolve whatever the issue is. Mm-hmm. And something like you mentioned, a particular estimatics program. And we would go out and basically try to, inform the agent as much as we could about how the program worked, and then address any concerns they might have with it or any problems that they might have with it. We're basically interacting with them to help them, but more importantly, the customer at the end of the day.
Right.
You're there to help the customer, and so is the agent.
So I always found that estimatics program to be very interesting and make a lot of sense. And I know you used to not only work with the agents on it, but the body shops, right? So,
Yes.
Okay, so explain, I guess, how was that born and how did it grow? Select service.
That program. Well, basically, it's kind of interesting because historically, body shops and claims may have had somewhat of an adverse relationship. And that could at times be difficult. But I think body shops, or actually the sharper body shops, understood that they were getting paid by the insurance company. It made sense for them to get along. Mm-hmm. And so out of that grew kind of a customer-oriented program where they could go directly to the body shop and they would write the estimate, send it to them, and we would just monitor on the back end what that estimate looked like, and then interact with the body shop on how we would like that to look like, and how the car, should be repaired correctly, and making sure that everything's copacetic for the customer.
Did that cost jobs? Like you're doing the estimating at the people at the collision shop essentially become the estimators, right?
Correct.
So was there less?
But you still need it. Probably in the grand scheme of thing, yeah, you would have less estimators. But the reality is, you have so much growth that in other words, we never had a major layoff because we developed this new program. It just morphed into they had different roles. They became an inspector for that program, so they would go behind and review and make sure that the estimates look correct, and that the repairs were being made correctly for the customer. So in essence, I think the growth took care of whatever, what would you call it? Looking for the word, I can't think of it.
Loss of jobs.
Yeah, it was more of a shift in responsibility.
A shift in responsibilities.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Do you have any questions about
I don't feel as passionate about this program as you do.
You know why I feel passionate about it? Because first off, I remember you coming into the agency and saying, you guys are telling them to, when you take a claim, you're doing select service, right? You're doing select service, right? And I was like, yeah, chill, I got it. But then remember when I got out of college, one of the body shops hired me as a director of marketing. And I'm so sorry it didn't work out, but one of the body shops hired me as the director of marketing. I was only there about 6 weeks, but then I saw the other side of it because I saw, okay, they treated Dad like he was the president. And it's because he was State Farm to them, or he was the insurance company to them, and he was referring them millions, I'm sure, in business, right? So without that relationship, they would have lost a ton of business. So it was important to them.
It was very important to them.
So I am passionate.
But at the same time, as an insurer, it was important for us to have a good organization out there that we knew that, because they're asking us where to send the car. And, there's certain insurance regulations that you have to be careful of. But that at the end of the day, if we say this particular shop is on our program, they're relying on the insurer to send them to someone that would repair it correctly and do a nice job with it. So it was a two-way street.
Everybody wins.
The concept of this program, was that truly your idea, or you were one of?
No, that's your sister's.
But okay, so then why did that become such a big part of your role?
Because it was his responsibility to oversee the claims.
Because I had the estimators. I was responsible for estimatics. Remember, we talked about that earlier?
Yeah.
That was a function of my role was to manage that program.
Let me ask you this, because obviously Krista was on and telling us about her job a couple episodes ago. Were you responsible for meeting any kind of criteria of how much was paid out in claims?
No.
That was
never.
just, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Okay.
Pay what we owe, not a dollar more. That was our.
Oh, I like that. Pay what we owe, not a dollar more.
So you never had somebody coming to you being like, why are we paying out this much? This is too much. Like,
No.
never. It's
Never.
just they took whatever you said as this is what it is. We're just paying.
Well, I mean,
Based off of your experience, obviously.
Right. We were expected to monitor it and make sure that everything made sense, right? Made sure that the estimate made sense. So
Okay.
that was our role.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about, well, let me pause. What do you know about the current state of the insurance industry today?
I know that it's very expensive today.
It's you do know that. But what has happened is they're trying to stop a lot of growth. Some companies might be trying to stop, I don't know.
Some may be.
Some may
yes.
be trying to stop a lot of growth.
Backed up in claims,
All right. Well,
etc.
let me try to address it. And I should probably preface this by that question that you just asked me by saying I've been retired for almost 4 years now. So that's why you asked me, what about the state of insurance today? But what you just stated is a common cycle in insurance. And the 36 years that I was doing it, that repeated over and over and over again. You go through a growth spurt.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Growth spurt, and then you dial it back for a period because you have all of a sudden a bunch of expenses associated with that growth. So that will evolve over time constantly. It's an ebb and flow of the insurance business.
So yeah, that is absolutely no big deal
I
to
have
you.
heard
Right.
countless of our agents that have been around the block say the exact same thing.
I think it feels like such a big deal now because I bet you the last time this happened, there wasn't so much internet business. Like I think they have access to bring in a lot more new business than they used to because they can advertise online and they can do all this digital marketing to bring in a large percentage more than they used to be able to bring in. Because in 1984, how did an insurance agent get new business?
A lot of it was word of mouth
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah. What else could you do? And
Right.
now, anytime anybody needs insurance, they're just going right online. So it's so much more volume. So it probably feels
And competitive.
Yeah.
So it probably just feels, especially
And
too,
on that same token, also we're in the age of social media. So not only are they able to go on and shop and get leads in a different way, it's also talked about in a different way. Every single person on Facebook knows exactly what's going on in the insurance industry because it's being talked about everywhere in a way that it never was before. People that wouldn't even have had that on their radar are just seeing it because we follow our insurance agent on Facebook and we see what's being talked about and said. So it's in that sense also a lot different than it was back in the day, the last time we went through these cycles or whatever.
Yes, I would expect certainly today you have to do a lot of marketing that's based on internet, right? I would think. Just on knowing what the market is today. Anything is that you do today.
yeah.
It's the same for a body shop. You know, I've seen that. Body shops that I know of, I've seen their advertisements online. It's something they never did years ago.
Yeah.
Well, same thing. If you need work done on your car, where are you going to look to
Right.
figure out what place you pick?
Correct.
Google.
Or your insurance agent, if they're utilizing that program, right?
If they're still actively utilizing that program, yeah.
So what would your advice be to agents that are really struggling with this deep, dark pit that they're currently in?
Ride it out. It'll pass. You know,
Yeah.
do the best you can to deal with it now. Market as much as you can to keep your name out there, but this will pass.
But it's important not to give up on marketing.
You have to market.
in this time.
In any business, it isn't
Yeah.
just insurance. It's any business that you're in, you have to market. And today you have to do that digitally, right? I mean, that's the name of the game today.
Yeah. Don't we know it? What do you like about what I think is the more boring side of insurance?
What, claims?
She means claims. Yeah.
Claims, underwriting.
Well, I mean, I think it's what you're suited to personally. I mean, I had an opportunity to be an agent multiple times years ago, and I never had any interest in it just because it wasn't me. I'm not really a salesman. Although when you say that, an agent tell you, yeah, but if you're in claims, you have to be able to sell to customers, to agents, blah, 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 which is true to an extent, but it's just not something I would enjoy. Where claims was more concrete, you know, it was something that was very much more suited to my personality, I would say.
Like
and
Krista.
And your sister, for that matter. Krista, correct.
She loves the 1 + 1 = 2. There is no further discussion.
I can find it in a chart. I can find my, formula.
Well, she did come from Egypt.
She did. She did come from Egypt, but she still has that from you. So, what was I going to say? I had something good to say. Do you have anything to say while I think about it?
I mean, I just think that it makes complete sense. I could never see him as an agent. Your background is not in that. And if you think about, what you said at the beginning, you were always interested in cars and working on cars and figuring out what's wrong and how do I fix it. And really, in a way, that's what you ended up doing in your career to a certain extent.
Yeah, it morphed into, that position, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, it's the same thing as us. Okay, we're social. We like talking. We were in retail, or we liked, being in front of the customer. That's why we do what we do now, because it's just our personal interests.
I know what I wanted to talk about. Have you ever heard the term Nepo baby?
I've heard it. I don't really know what it means.
Okay, so I think it's very relevant in our industry. I mean, as we're all sitting here right now, we are all, including you, a product of nepotism. A Nepo baby basically means you got your job and you're in what you're doing because you knew somebody, right? So you knew Vince got you into your job. Right. We knew your friend that got us into
I would really even say it starts all the way back with him. I was actually just talking about this with an agent. I was at an event a couple days ago, and we were just talking about kind of the culture of being brought up in this world of insurance. And we were introduced to it at a very, very young age. If you think back to a Christmas party or this, that, or the other thing we went to with this insurance company, it's like that's always been in our blood. And it's something that's come from you, really.
Yeah, but the only thing I would say, Martina, is that term Nepo baby is just, we call it networking. Okay. That's the end of the day. It's networking.
Yes, Dad. Yeah. I think the exact same. I just said this the other day. It's just smart networking. Both of my jobs that got me to where I am now, 2 past companies I worked with. One of your friends, another one of your friends.
Correct.
I have no shame in that. And I just think that people should stop.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, you have to be competent in whatever it is that you want to do, right? So you have to get an education, learn how to do it well. But to find a position is networking.
Exactly. And since when did it become a bit?
And actually, that was something that when I went to school, we talked about.
Really?
Networking. Make sure you're out there networking. Yeah. Absolutely. Because it's connection, right?
Yeah. Like Mom always says, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it's so true.
Well, it's half. It's both.
Yeah.
But one leads to the other. Yeah, it gets to the door, and then you better know what you're doing once you get in the door, because you don't have to stay there.
Mm-hmm. And you can still do, I think the whole idea behind it is you just get handed things. But even you, I remember calling you and saying, hey, can you get me a job with Chris? And you said, no, but you can get yourself a job. And you gave me his number, and I had to call him on my own and get it. And did he give me the job because I was your daughter? Probably. But you still, it's all about how it's presented to you and what you make of it after.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then when you got there, you had to do it well, right? I think he'd hire you back if you wanted to.
I hope.
I guarantee.
You all did a great job for him, but that's true. I mean, I would I didn't want to hand you anything. You knew
Yeah.
that. You had to work for it. That's a value that you need to learn.
So,
I think that this is one of the reasons that I'm so excited to have you on this podcast at all. Honestly, I've been saying since the first one that we did, we have to get Dad on here. We have to get Dad on here. And I think that it's just so important for people to really understand us and our business and our work ethic and how we do what we do and why we do it that way, because so much of it comes from the way we were raised by him. What he just said, he never handed us anything. We had to work for anything that we got. We did our chores every Saturday. We, when it came time to get a car, it was, okay, I'll give you X amount and then you're putting in the rest, or whatever the case may be.
And then don't ever ask me for gas money, right? Because you ain't getting it.
I never once asked you for 1 cent for gas, ever.
Correct.
And, to your point about, okay, the networking gets you in the door, but then it's what you do after the fact. I would also credit that to you largely, the way that we are in the workplace and the way that we carry ourselves, the way that we, run our business. Really, a lot of it comes from things that we've learned from him over the years.
So then what you're saying, I'm part owner,
I
right?
I knew that's where he was going with this. Pull it back, Carla.
He gave us a check that one time.
Yeah, he tried to invest.
He tried to buy into the company.
He wrote me a
I
check.
think I have 10%, don't I?
He wrote me a check for $1,000. It was like 0.0001%. I don't know what you own. I never cashed the check, so you don't own anything. I'm the sole owner. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of the, well, I don't know how much you know about just like the culture of kids. Like, I'd say, when I say kids, I mean like 16 to 25 in their work ethic right now.
I hear it's not good.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that. I haven't had any firsthand experience, but I could imagine if these kids were just handed everything all their lives, they just have an expectation that, one, they don't have to do anything, and two, someone owes them something, and they're in for a rude awakening because the world doesn't work that way. So I'm very proud of you girls, because irregardless of what I tried to instill in you, it's up to you to go out there and do it. And you guys have done it. You've done fantastic. It's great to see. I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Dad.
Thanks. I lost my train of thought.
Wow, there's a first.
I know. Oh, I was going to ask you, what advice would you give to young parents or parents of young kids to make sure that their kids turn out as great as we did?
Well, I think
Chores.
a lot of it, chores. A lot of it's just common sense. You have to show kids love, but you have to discipline them. You have to let them know their rules, right? Because when you get out in the world, there are rules.
Yeah.
And you're going to get out of life what you put into it. So you have to teach them about work.
Yeah.
And about the importance of you have to put in the time and the work in order to get the reward in life.
So I'll share what he means by teach them work. Every single Saturday, wake up and there's a list. Some weeks it was different. You got different chores, but it would be like, okay, here's Carla's list, here's Chris's list, here's Martina's list of chores. And you cannot do whatever you want until you do those chores.
You're not playing outside. You're not watching a movie. You're not running around with your sisters. Nothing until the chores are done.
And not only did the chores need to be done, Mr. Estimatics had to come inspect them to make sure they were up to standard.
Shall we talk about your total failure at the vacuum cleaner team?
I know you love this story.
Yeah, you set yourself up for this one. You brought it up.
What did I do, Dad? How did I vacuum?
We had a room that was 600 square feet. And I'd say, go vacuum the carpet. She'd turn the vacuum cleaner on. And about 2 minutes later, come trotting back in. I'm done. And there weren't even lines in the carpet.
Either that or she also, so once you figured out, okay, she's not even doing anything, to try to trick you, she'd take the vacuum cleaner, not turn it on, and run it over the floor to create the lines to give the illusion that she had vacuumed. But obviously, there were still crumbs everywhere.
I just wanted to get one over on
it saved her no time. It saved her absolutely no time.
Yeah, how lame was that? Right. What did you gain from doing that?
She wanted to have one up on you. She wanted to have pulled one over.
Until I look at the rug and say, well, how come the dirt's still there?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. And my husband wonders why I won't even look at a vacuum. Don't bring it near me. I don't want to. No.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you've said this before in other, I don't know if it's podcasts or other things that you've done, but that brings it back to, okay, doing the job right. So we're not just doing the job, we're doing the job right. Like, there's nothing worse than spending an hour and a half on a Saturday morning cleaning the bathroom floor and then having him come up and being like, oh, there's a hair right there in the corner that you missed. Start over or do it over. So, I mean, that's where, especially me in particular, I got so much of my attention to detail. We've got to do it right. It's going to be like, it has to be perfect. I mean, and that is something that's been a huge advantage in our business and in my professional life today, but it came from the inspection of the bathroom floor on Saturday morning.
I want to know, I've asked some of my clients this before because I find it to be very interesting, and you have managed a lot of people over the years. Do you find it more difficult to be a manager of employees or to be a parent of children?
The parent, for sure.
Is more difficult.
Yes.
Elaborate.
Well, for one thing, you live with that child forever, right? So, but
can't fire me.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I mean, for example, Martina, the queen of emotion, you would have a nuclear meltdown about every other day, you know.
Yeah.
That's a little different than an employee. They usually don't have a nuclear meltdown.
You haven't employed me before. But yes, I understand. They're more, and you can get rid of them.
Plus, you're responsible for the child.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, you want to see the child grow up like you guys have done and be successful and do it right.
So you just had really no struggles managing employees?
No, you always have struggle managing.
How are they different?
If you have a team of 12 estimators, they're all a little different, right? They all have different personalities. And you have to try to figure out what motivates the different people, because different things. Some people.
How do you figure that out?
Observation and experience. So, you kind of observe, some people like money. Some people like the difficulty of the task or the challenge of the task. So you really have to look at the individual personalities. They're all a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked in another podcast with one of our agents a couple of weeks back about what a manager of Martina and I specifically would do differently to manage each one of us. And I think probably better than anyone the differences in our personalities, what might motivate one of us versus the other. If we were your employees, how would you manage each one of us to make us successful?
I'd quit. I'd walk off the job.
I guess I don't blame you. We're not easy.
Like you said, you're detail oriented. She isn't. Martina isn't. She's a total opposite. But she's I think big picture oriented. She's a thinker. She's motivated. She's driven. She's smart. She
beautiful. Charming.
Beautiful. Well, you're all beautiful.
You got all that, and I got detail oriented.
Well, you're smart as well, and you're a hard worker. And I think you make a good team because you complement each other.
So we've heard. Mm-hmm. So we've heard.
The word on the street.
Give me one sales tip that applies to any industry. And as not a salesperson yourself, what is something a salesperson can do to earn your trust and earn your business?
Well, the first part of that question, I would say know your customer would be one of the most important things, right? I guess honesty in the relationship is what builds trust. Mm-hmm. In your experience with that person, being honest, and you can trust what they say and what they're going to do.
Okay. One marketing tip that will work for any industry.
He kind of already said it.
Don't.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No leading the witness.
Trying to help you.
No leading objection, leading the witness.
Know your customer.
No, we're going to need a different one. Sales is how can I make this person become my customer? Marketing is how can I make sure people know what my product is and why they need it?
So you're talking about marketing?
Yeah, we're talking about marketing.
I don't know.
Oh, that's fair.
I'd have to think about it.
Just do it. Just marketing, just do it.
You said get your name out there.
Yeah.
You specifically mentioned digitally, so I think that's a good enough answer.
Yeah.
You just forgot you said it.
Because
Well, you have to put yourself out there.
Right.
there you go.
That's
You got to put yourself out there, especially with all the competition that's out there, insurance or anything else today for that matter. You've got to make yourself known. How's someone going to remember Joe Blow's Enterprise? How are you going to remember that? Or Jane? Or Jane's
Jane
Enterprise.
Blow.
I don't wanna be
politically
sexist in front of my two daughters here.
don't want him canceled or anything.
Yeah, don't cancel me. I only had one podcast. Where's my Godfather music intro?
You wanted a Godfather. Scott, could you
work
please
it in?
Scott, could you please play the Godfather soundtrack at this point? Thank you. Oh my God. All right. Well, since you are a father of 3 wonderful girls, give just some general life advice for anybody listening.
General life advice? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that you just have to be honest and real in what you do.
Honest and real in what you do. I like that.
Me too.
Do you want that to be like your slogan?
I have no slogans.
Okay.
All right. Well, before we go, I just want to confirm something that we talked about the other day. You are going to come over and look at my garage door and try to fix it right now,
Yes,
right?
we're going to go look at that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just confirming.
Well, shall we talk about the way you drive since you bring that up?
Oh, you're going to do that
How did
to
your
me?
garage door get damaged?
I ran into it. It was.
I didn't know that.
I thought it was coming it was coming up. I was in the garage. It was coming up. I thought it was all the way up, and it stopped midway. And excuse me for trusting the garage door, and I drove into it.
You know, you have a camera in your car, right?
Yeah, Dad, I do.
And
I do.
You should look at that.
Do you find it ironic that for a claims officer,
You know what I find ironic now that we're talking about this?
what?
Is remember what I used to say to you I was teaching you to drive?
You
I
said
know one thing.
you said if there was 2 kids in the car, you'd say there's 2 mothers expecting their kid home today.
That's what I was
true.
gonna say.
That's one
That
thing.
was one
But
thing. What else?
But what I used to say is turn your big fat head because I wanted you to remember that. And obviously I failed.
No, but that was literally like, turn your big fat head around. Turn it.
And meanwhile, I'm learning to drive in an HHR, those little tiny,
no windows.
no windows, complete blind spot here. And he's like, how did you not see that? And I'm like, I turned my head and it's all plastic. Yeah. The things I am bad at in life are the things that you've traumatized me on. Vacuuming, driving, and going to church.
Okay, so we can blame him for both the good and the
good
bad.
and the bad. Yeah, exactly.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah. So I'm not the best driver, but we can't all be perfect, you know?
That's
So-
okay. We'll go fix your garage
Yeah.
door.
Thank you. Thank you. Any last words, Red?
No, this was a blast.
Or blast. Thank you so much. It's so nice to have.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we love to have a different side of the business that we all
Yeah.
know and love
Yes, yes. Very
Absolutely.
cool.
for that company, and
Very
that
nice.
program they do. Very nice. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.